Morning, my name's Professor Annie Brooking. I'm the case study today. Please do come and look at the product we're talking about. It's outside. It's called Speedy Breedy. Speedy Breedy is actually the 17th product I have brought to market. And I was trying to remember the other day how many funding rounds I've actually prepared businesses for, and I don't really quite know. But we're actually doing another close right now. I think this is probably my 10th or 12th funding that I've been closing. So I keep saying I won't do this again because it's pretty painful, but here I am doing it again. I have, in fact, been a CEO for about 25 years. I'm not from the water industry. I'm a computer scientist by background. And I was fortunate enough to work for Eric Schmidt as a strategist in Silicon Valley at Sun Microsystems. And he was the major person who kicked me into shape from being an academic, quite frankly, a computer science academic, into a business person. Eric, of course, is now the chairman of the board of Google. And I think I'm strong on marketing and hopefully intellectual property. Bactest is the business I took over 2 years ago. One of the founders is here, Derek Price. The business was started by two scientists. These guys were both ex-Unilever, both microbiologists. There wasn't a business person in the team. Derek is a genius at getting grants, and in fact, the business was very much funded from garages and whatnot. They got two smart grants, each of about 245K. And they did hire a corporate finance person to help them raise some money, who made himself the chief executive, the finance director, and the company secretary, which I must admit I wouldn't recommend anybody ever did. But in fact, he'd never been a CEO before, and he'd also never brought any products to market before. And so the business got very badly stuck, and in 2009 ran out of money, and the guys, really didn't get paid for something like 9 months. In March 2010, I was introduced to these two founders by a fellow that some of you may know called Professor Alan Barrell. And we're in Cambridge, and Alan is very much part of the Cambridge scene, serial entrepreneur, serial chairman, lots of fundraising, part of the Cambridge Angel Group and so forth. And I'd known Alan for a very long time. And he said to me, you really ought to meet these two guys because I've known them for a number of years and I think they've got something that is special, but, they need somebody like you to help them. And so I met Derek and Tony in a coffee bar and looked at what they had, which was really a technology platform. But they weren't thinking of it really as a technology platform. At the time, the business was aimed at being a septicemia test, a fast septicemia test. And I'd actually been running a medical devices business for 6 years, and with the idea of this fast septicemia test, no clinicals, no data, no regulation, no 13485, no money. I thought, the probability of actually getting this thing to market was 0. And so we had a discussion about whether or not there were any other markets that I would call low-hanging fruit. And we identified within 30 minutes, actually, probably a half a dozen different types of markets to include checking for contamination in water, beer, paint, research in blood, all sorts of different things. And I became quite excited about this business, and we decided to do something together. The business, the clever part about the business, the thing I really liked about it, is that what it does is it turns microbial activity into data. And there wasn't another product that we could find anywhere on the market that could do anything like this, and also do it really fast. Also, the other thing I liked about the business is it's got a disposable, so it's a razor and razor blade play. Once you bought the instrument, you had to keep buying these culture chambers to do these contamination tests. So that's the background to the business, and as it happens, I've actually written 2 books on intangible assets. I wrote the first book, which is called Intellectual Capital, so if you've got nothing better with your time, if you Google me, what you won't get is lots of information about Bactest. Actually, what you will get is probably lots of information about intellectual capital, because this is the name of the book that I wrote. And so the first thing I always will do with a business is actually look to see what the intangible assets are and clean up the legal infrastructure. Also get rid of the dead wood, I'll talk about that in a minute. And make the business squeaky clean. I think, you have to, from day one, if you're starting a business, you have to make the decision to run the business, not as something that you would run from the kitchen, but you kind of have to pretend you're Sony. I've always tried to pretend that I run Sony instead of Bactest, so that the decisions that we make and the procedures that we follow mean that the business is always an investable proposition. Build up a due diligence file and an online data room. I can't tell you how important it is to do something like this. So I don't suggest actually that you put it in a filing cabinet. I suggest you fast scan everything immediately and upload it somewhere and keep it in a data room, so that when your investors do want to look at your documentation, all you have to do is to give them a password to a data room which is online. And they really do like that, because they think you know what you're doing if you've actually done that already. And of course, build a very compelling investor proposition. High-tech businesses have 4 categories of assets, and this is all the stuff that I wrote in this book years ago. And the categories of assets, kind of when you look at it, it's very obvious. The first is intellectual property. These are patents, trademarks, design rights, semiconductor topography rights, all this kind of thing. And I have always tried to have the products that we've brought to market covered by more than one patent, which is called a thicket of patents. So you want lots of patents around the same product, so that if one of them breaks, or somebody breaks one of these, then in fact you've got another few to protect it. I think the Kodak camera, you'll correct me, had something like 110 patents around the Kodak. Which one? I can't remember now. I'll remember in a minute. Yeah. No, it wasn't Instamat, but no, it was a huge number of patents that were around this particular Kodak product. Market assets, small businesses don't have these, but this is one of the key things that you should have. This is repeat business, brand, contracts, favored contracts, distributors, customer references. So these are assets that give a business power in the marketplace. Infrastructure assets are never there with a baby company. These are the systems that keep the business strong. I always think of these like, if you think of a chicken, what would it look like if it didn't have any infrastructure? If it didn't have any bones? Well, it couldn't do anything at all. And this is quite frequently what small businesses are like. They don't have those bones and that infrastructure. And so as a business grows, it's the job of the management team to actually put that infrastructure in place. And the last are human-centered assets, and these are the people. And I have written a book on knowledge management, actually. And what really is the key is to identify the tacit knowledge in the business and try and document that so it becomes explicit knowledge, and then you can protect it easier. And that also becomes part of the systems that the business has. So we've raised 1.25 million. It has been a very long, hard struggle to do this in this climate. We did it in two closings, and in fact our round is still open, and we're looking to raise another £250,000 right now. And so we were presenting yesterday down here to a syndicate of investors. So this is pretty much what we had to do. Identify markets with low-hanging fruit. The product originally was, as I said, aimed at septicemia. What I really think was a good thing that we did is we broadened the spec so that we had one piece of hardware which could look at a number of different markets. Because I'm a computer girl, what I wanted to do was to put a lot of software into the product so that we could customize the product by changing the software instead of changing the hardware, and that is exactly what we've done. We postponed the medical device market because that's going to cost a lot more money to go after, built a new strategic plan. We went out and contacted all of the people who had invested in this business. And there were a number of people that had invested quite a lot of money that had really just written it off. You know, they thought that they hadn't heard from anybody in the business for a couple of years, which is another major mistake. You should never make that mistake. What I did is you imagine, so the business has got no money, and it's in a mess. In Cambridge, I went out and I called in every single favour I had with Marks and Clark. You know, came in and did work for us for nothing. I don't suppose they'll ever do that again, but they did for us. We went to employment lawyers because the employment contracts were a mess. We went to Taylor Wessing, who were fantastic, and literally, I don't know how much advice we got, but I'm guessing probably 50 grand's worth of work we called in for nothing, in order to get the business into an investable proposition. I fired the existing patent agent because they'd lost our patent assignment in America, believe it or not. And so we nearly got into a very tricky situation until they found a patent assignment that they'd actually lost 2 years previously, and we had somebody who wanted us to pay them quite a lot of money in order to assign this patent, which in fact had already been assigned many years before, but the patent agent had lost it, so I fired him. I removed the chairman also, and the CEO, and the sales director, so it was a pretty big clean out. Cleaned up our legal structure and all of our documentation, and then it became apparent that in that market that it was really difficult, was going to be really difficult for us to raise money, until somebody said, have you ever thought of looking at the Cleantech market, because I think you can use this product in the Cleantech market. And I was devastated at the time because I'd only just finished writing the business plan, which wasn't focused at the Cleantech market. But we had some meetings with the Low Carbon Innovation Fund, and they said to us, look, you know, this is great technology, great platform. If you can actually reinvent this business as a clean tech business, we're interested. So I had to rewrite the business plan all over again and reinvent us and back us into the clean tech space. And I'm very pleased to say that the Low Carbon Innovation Fund has so far invested, I think, £430,000 in the business. So it was a good decision. Then we closed 900K on December the 21st, 2011. It took 1.5 years just to get that amount of money. We rebuilt the board. We hired 3 more people. Now we're 5. In fact, I hired someone earlier this week. We are now 6 people. We closed a 110K TSB grant, and that gave our investors quite a lot of good feelings about the business, because we managed to get a 2-tier business. So we have a fast product that comes to market, which is called Speedy Breedy, which we've got outside. And we have a second product that's in R&D, because investors don't like a one-trick pony. So we've always got something else. We've got an exit planned on a valuation for Speedy Breedy, and so the second product, as it's coming along, is in fact a bit of a bonus to investors. We built our first instrument in 7 months flat, from a design to actually getting it manufactured and trialled. We put it into Addenbrooke's Hospital, where Addenbrooke's undertook 140 trials testing Speedy Breedy against a big lab instrument to see if it could find contamination in blood. We find contamination in any kind of liquid. And so I thought that that would help us get some funding for clinical in the future for that application. The results correlated greater than 100% with the instrument, and by that I mean that wherever the big lab instrument, which is a Bacti-Alert, found contamination, so did we, exactly. But Speedy Breedy actually found contamination in samples that the Bacti-Alert missed. So we're bang on with this instrument, and we're always up to 40% faster than a lab instrument. Then we raised another 350K, which brings us up to 1.25 million, recruited 4 distributors, got the beta software finished, which it now is, and we're now about to go into trials with Procter & Gamble, Affinity Water, Leyland Paints, and more. And we've just taken orders for our first 8 units. So as I've already said, we're back out now to raise another £250,000 quid, which I have hopefully we'll be able to do that before Easter. And our post-valuation money is 2.65. I have really put a huge amount of effort into having very good investor relations. I personally write an 8-page investor update, and it really is warts and all, and I send that out every 2 months. Some people say, you know, you're crazy putting that much effort into it. It's never ever failed, and I get investors sometimes, because I send it out by email, I send a personal email to everyone. I think we have something like 50 or 60 angels that have invested in Bactest, as well as the Low Carbon Innovation Fund. So it's no mean feat to actually, you know, personally email each one of these, but I do. And quite a lot of them ring me up immediately and say, you know, good job, Annie, shame about this, but, you know, thanks very much for telling us. And I think what it has done is it's built a feeling of trust between the shareholders and, you know, me, because things do go wrong, and I think when things go wrong, the best thing to do is not to hide it, it's just to confront it, you know, straight on and say, you know, I screwed this up, but this is what we're going to do. We always have 3-month KPIs for the business, and I share those with the investors. And we have a lot of phone calls. We do have investors who perhaps have only invested 10K and say, you know, can I come along and see what's going on at the office? It doesn't really matter to me if they've invested 10K or £100,000. I treat them exactly the same as if each one of them, you know, has made a substantial investment in the business. So do come and look at the product. It's outside, Speedy Breedy. This is it. This is the real thing now. It's got a beautiful software interface, which in fact we can't show you today because I forgot to bring the software. And that's the end of my presentation, but it really is just the beginning for Bactest and the beginning for us to make lots of money for ourselves and also for our investors. Thank you.